Hi, everyone. Good afternoon.
Hello, everyone.
All right. Before we start, I would just like to remind everyone to please kindly turn on your cameras. And then, if you are a student leader, please put SL before your name. And if you are an alumni, please put alumni before your name. All right. Thank you so much. All right. So, I'm passing it on to Joseph to start.
All right. Hey, everyone. Happy Tuesday. It's good to have y'all here. Hopefully, y'all had a great weekend. It was good to see some of you at the field trip to the Junior Achievement Finance Park. I was really excited to see Brenda and then also Stephanie too and Matthew. And so it was really good to have you all there. And I hope that y'all learned a lot from it. Matthew, I'm curious to hear from you. Like, what did you take away from the field trip?
I learned that there are many like different aspects you have to like put into mind when creating your budget, and that sometimes stuff goes over the budget.
Yeah, budgeting really matters, and money runs out really quick. And that's why a budget really does matter. So I'm glad that you got a taste of what that was like as well. Um, Brenda, I'm curious to hear from you if you can hear me. Can you hear me, Brenda? I don't know if you can, but that's all right. I know I saw Brenda there. Anyone else went that came to the field trip this past weekend that I got a chance to see? Okay. Well, maybe just Matthew. I know Brenda was there. I know Camilla was there, but it was good to see y'all. Let's talk about what we're going to go through today. So we have our Flex facilitator, Arsela, who's going to come in and teach us about decisions and decision making and how to make better decisions and make them easier to do. So Arsela comes through and she is a Flex facilitator. So just as you give me the attention every week, I would love for you to give her your attention and pop in and share your thoughts as well. And so without further ado, Arsela, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Joseph. Hi, everybody. I'm Arsela. Maybe you've seen me in the fall semester, maybe you haven't, but I'm really excited to come back again. I hope everyone's doing well. Yes, today we're going to be talking about battling indecision. So, this is a very, very important topic. I will say, I think it's underrated. I feel like a lot of, especially young people, we don't understand why making decisions is so important and how it really affects our absolutely our daily life. You know, every single thing that you're going through right now is just an accumulation of all the decisions that you or people before you have made in your life. So, we're going to be talking a lot about choice overload, mental fatigue, and perfectionism and how, those types of things can disrupt your ability to take action in your life in, small and big ways. We're going to talk about limiting decisions, how to apply decision-making frameworks, and have more clarity in your life. There's just a few little quotes I'll say for now, so that maybe you can get your head wrapped around this topic. It's important to understand that you don't have to have a big decision that you can make. You could just take the first step towards your big decisions, and then, hopefully you'll get there, slowly but surely. So, I'm gonna, move to the next slide. We'll just, kind of go over what we talked about, last week. So last week, we had covered adaptability and contingency planning. So we explored how adaptability starts with your mindset and how seeing change as normal makes challenges easier to manage. We learned that pausing before reacting, practicing flexible thinking, and building simple contingency plans help us be prepared instead of stressed. And lastly, we learned that with confidence, calm, and a focus on what we can control, We will learn to navigate surprises in school, work, and life with resilience and clarity. So it's important to understand that, the topics that you learned last week will also, have a lot to do with making good decisions, right? Being able to be confident and calm is going to help you be more clear when you make small and big decisions in your life and having that adaptability mindset, that everything will be okay no matter what decision, what path you choose, you'll do well and you have to be flexible with that. So, okay, let's move to the next slide. So these are our learning objectives for today. We do have some poll questions that I believe should be coming up. Um, so you can, look at those as I speak as well. So, the learning objectives for the day are to explain how choice overload, mental fatigue, and expectations influence decision making and contribute to indecision. We're going to be applying practical strategies such as limiting options, having pre-deciding routines, and setting time limits to make quicker and more confident decisions every day. And we're going to also be learning about some specific decision-making frameworks that can help you when you're, trying to figure out your options and select what choice works best for you. So, I see the poll questions are coming up, which is exciting. So we have, 3 questions today, just to kind of gauge everyone's, you know, opinions on this topic. So I'm gonna give it like a minute, maybe another minute or so to see if everybody's got their questions. Let's see. Okay. I'm just gonna read out the first question for now, and hopefully we'll get our responses in, completely in a few minutes. So the first question is, when it comes to decisions, which best describes your style? So the choices were, I need lots of information first. Second choice was I go with my gut. Third is I wait until the last minute. And the fourth is I ask someone else. Okay. So I see so far that the most common answer is I need lots of information first. Okay, so we have more overthinkers today than we have spontaneous, impulsive decision makers. Because the second most common answer was I go with my gut. So, that's interesting, right? There's a difference between the intuitive decision making and then there's kind of, being more analytical, right? So we're going to talk about that today in, our discussion. That is, it could be a personality thing, but it could also just be maybe how you were raised and, it's a lot of different reasons there. Okay, so the second question is we have what slows down your decisions the most? So the most common answer we got was fear of regretting my choice. Okay, that's very typical, yeah. And then the second most common answer is overthinking every detail. Okay. And another common option was wanting the perfect option. So, these are all pretty similar. And we're going to definitely be talking a lot about regret and FOMO, things like that. Those are definitely big factors in what slows down the way that you might, choose certain things. And okay, the last question that we have is what type of nudge would help you make better choices? So we have a pretty three-way tie here. Interesting. So we have reminders, visual cues, and encouragement from someone else. Mm, okay. If anybody has anything specific that they want to talk about with this one, feel free to put it in the chat. If anything has helped anyone specifically with these. I mean, so for me, I guess it depends on how, social maybe you are. I think for me, I would love to have the encouragement from someone else to make a good choice, right? Maybe getting encouragement from someone older than you, or someone who knows more than you about something. would be really helpful. Having visual cues like post-its or, a vision board or something can definitely help you as well. Um, okay, so yeah, that was the poll, guys. Thank you so much for participating. And I hope that that helped you learn a little bit more about the topic today. And, just think a little bit more about what I would say from the poll is to figure out your decision-making style. So as I said, are you more of someone who gathers more information, or are you more someone who kind of just wants to make decisions more quickly and intuitively? Okay, so we'll go on to the next slide. Okay, so this is the first topic of the three that main things that we're going to be discussing today. So there's something called the paradox of choice, which is having too many options in your life. And it sounds awesome, right? Being able to choose maybe from 5 different cuisines might be awesome, for dinner, but it actually makes it harder for you to just be more satisfied in general. Having too many choices actually increases your mental load and sometimes your stress, right? Having too many options can make you be comparing yourself or something to something else. It can, lead to being too slow with your decisions and second guessing yourself a lot. Having more options can also raise your expectations with things, right? It may make you think since you're comparing things, it might make you think that there's going to be something perfect out there for you. And, that can feel a little too more serious than it really is and not help you make the decision quick enough. Also, the choice abundance, as you guys had said in your poll answer, is that it can give you a lot of regret, right? It can make you think that what you did may not have been as good as something else. And, that essentially increases your dissatisfaction overall with whatever you're doing. It's less fulfilling. And then also having decision fatigue will reduce the quality of your choices. So the more decisions that you make actually can, hinder your judgment overall and drain your energy. And lastly, having indecision can even become a habit for you. It may be easier to avoid a decision in the moment, but it actually is going to, kind of make you freeze up a little bit, right? And even on simple things like getting coffee or not knowing which coffee to choose or which store to go to, which supermarket, just small things can really make it harder for you in the long run. So, I would love to give an example. For me, I live in New York City, right? I have every single thing that I could desire in my palm. And, it's an amazing blessing that I have, but it also makes life really hard. Like the other day, I was walking with my friend and he was new to my area, my neighborhood. So, he was telling me that he wants to go get dinner at a nice spot. And there's a lot of nice spots in my area. So, I am the type of person, like I think in the poll question, there was the answer that I need lots of information first, right? So that was something that a lot of people had said. And that's how I am, right? I'm the type of person that if there's like 10 restaurants, I want to know about every single restaurant and every menu, and then I'm going to decide out of all those 10. So my friend, he's the opposite, where he goes with his gut and he just is fine with whatever he sees first. So, he saw this one Thai restaurant, he's like, I want to go here. And I was the opposite, that I said, I want to go to, maybe I'll have sushi, or maybe I'll have, Middle Eastern food. I don't know, I want to have Mediterranean. Like, I was just really indecisive about it. So, this is just like an example of something that, I feel like if you have too much of something, it actually makes it a lot harder. So we're going to learn a little bit more about limiting our options and how to, handle that in the next few slides. But I did have a little short or a little video that I wanted to share with this slide. If we can play that, Basha, that would be great.
Rather than waste your time being stressed over making the right decision, make the decision right. Randomly choose. Now, you can randomly choose if you want an almond joy or a Snickers. Nobody's gonna care, right? It's the exact same thing about getting married or not, taking the job or not. You can only live one life. If there were some magical way that I could live a life as somebody who's had 3 kids and somebody who hasn't had kids, maybe I can make a comparison. But you don't have that available to you. So I say to my students, should you go to Harvard or should you go to Yale? So they made a decision to go to Harvard. So let's say it's terrible. Oh, I wish I had gone to Yale. There's no way of knowing that Yale wouldn't have been worse, better, the same.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why regret is so mindless. Because the choice you didn't take, you're presuming, would have been better. Rather than waste your time being stressed over making the right decision, make the
So this video is, I guess, a good way to explain regret and that feeling that you may feel when, you think you didn't do something right. Something that I like to tell myself a lot now as an adult is that anything that I chose, I did it based off the information I had at the time, and I move forward from that, right? So be confident in yourself and whatever you do, because you're doing your best with whatever you know at that time. So we'll go on to the next slide, which is a workbook question. So we'll give you a minute to answer this one. It's, when do you feel overwhelmed by choices, and how does it affect your ability to move forward? And also be open to sharing, maybe what is it that overwhelms you? What are the types of choices that make you stressed? Okay, go ahead. So let's get ready to speak, guys. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna keep the floor open. Whoever wants to speak, I'll give you 10 seconds. If not, I will call on somebody. Anybody excited about answering this one? Okay, let's see. Brenda, do you have an answer to this one? Let's see.
I think Makaya was raising her hand earlier.
Okay.
Makaya will.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, sorry. So I put that I feel overwhelmed by choices when there are too many options and each one feels like it could really matter. When that happens, I start overthinking everything and worrying about picking the wrong one. Instead of moving forward, I sometimes freeze or like put it off because deciding feels harder than doing nothing.
For sure. Thank you so much, Makaya, for sharing. Definitely very relatable. Overthinking is a very common thing that we all go through. So we're gonna go over some decision frameworks for how to avoid overthinking, how to stop being overwhelmed by all our choices, and limiting our options to what is best for us. Thank you, Makaya. Anyone else? One more person want to share? Or else I can call on Kayla. Kayla, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so I think I feel more overwhelmed by choices when it's obviously like a larger decision, like Makaya was saying. Like, for example, like picking colleges. I am a senior, so picking a college or even picking internships to do in the summer, that can be very stressful. And I feel like it overwhelms me so much that I kind of like prevent looking forward to the future. And it doesn't make me feel like excited. It just makes me feel a little more stressed out. And yeah, I think it's kind of very similar. It's just the overthinking of am I gonna make the right choice? Is this where I belong in reality?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously with a large decision, it's very normal to feel like that, especially an internship or a job or a major, a college. Like those things are going to affect you much more later on in your life. Again, we're going to talk a little bit about it, but one of the frameworks that I really like is the 10-10-10 framework. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to explain it later. That'll help you, Kayla and Micaiah, specifically to what you said. So let's go to the next slide. Thank you, by the way, Kayla, for responding. Okay, so the next slide. So this is another aspect of, some solutions that we can talk about to what you both had just mentioned. So these are some practical steps you can take to make more clear and confident decisions, whether it's smaller things, everyday decisions, or bigger things in your life. So we're going to start with limiting options. So if we're going to use the example of college, choosing a college. Let's say, you guys live in California. It's probably a lot easier if you just limit yourself to only California, because then you'll know exactly where you want to go in California. Whereas if you kind of expand your options too much and you say you also want to go to an amazing school in Illinois or, in Florida or something, like it'll obviously make it harder for you. So I would highly recommend just limiting as many things that you want to do and being more practical about what you really, really want. Because that will, kind of just make it easier from all the overthinking and the comparison between everything that you could do. So cut it down to whatever you truly, truly want for yourself. Um, and then in terms of smaller decisions, maybe in your daily life, it's very helpful to use time limits for those things because overthinking everyday things will just make you delay it further and create even more overthinking and stress and difficulty. So, give yourself around just quick timing just to get things done really fast. There's this thing that Elon Musk says a lot. He has this thing with his workers that he does. I don't, if you guys don't know, he's big on productivity. So he has this quote that he says where he says if you give yourself a year to do something, it will take you an actually a year. But if you give yourself 3 hours, then you'll get it done in 3 hours. So you have to limit yourself and make yourself do a certain thing in a certain time to really push yourself to get it done quickly. And then in terms of your recurring daily choices, this is more of like your routine. Having a routine is a very important for your daily, recurring things in your life, right? So that's meal prepping, where you study, what time you eat. These are daily things that, if you kind of overthink those too much, it'll just create a lot of time that's wasted in your life. So you do have to create those routines for yourself where you know what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and these are called systems. So, I would really recommend looking into, books that talk about these types of topics. So, I don't know if anybody's heard of this very, very popular book. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. I hope, if anybody's read it, drop an emoji or something. I would love to know. It's an amazing book for this type of topic, making habits, making good decisions. There's a lot of really valuable things you can learn from that book. So, really definitely look into that book. And then there's just a few more things I would recommend is also sorting your decisions by what is the most important and then what is the least important. And you do have to know, what matters to you the most. So if you have an exam tomorrow, that's probably on the top of your list. And then, work slowly from there. So that will help you as well with your decision making. And lastly, notice when you're trying to be a little too much of a perfectionist, and that's hindering you. So, make sure that you know that something is good enough and just go through with it instead of kind of lingering onto something, trying to make it perfect. I think getting things done is better sometimes than getting it done very, very perfectly or well. Okay. So yeah, that covers, this type of topic. If anybody has any questions on this side, please feel free to, unmute yourself or write anything in the chat throughout. You can always interrupt me, guys. Okay. Now we're gonna move to the next slide for another workbook question. So this question is, what small or recurring decisions could you pre-decide to reduce your daily stress? This is more for your small everyday things. So I'll give you another minute to go over this one. Okay, so let's discuss a little bit about our daily life and the decisions that we want to make faster every day. So I'll give an example before anybody says their answer, and they're brave enough to respond. I think I saw Barack Obama when he was president. He used to only wear white and gray shirts and navy blazers because he didn't want to think about his decision for making, like for his outfit every day, just to make that like quick and easy. So I know we're not all the president, but we all have to make very quick decisions every day. So anybody have anything on this one? Okay, I'm gonna ask Jennifer. Jennifer, do you have anything on this one? Oh, I'm sorry, Omar. I don't even see your hand up. Go ahead, Omar, please.
For me, I just put something simple, like having to decide what do you want to eat for like the next day, so deciding and like what goals you want to get done. But you don't have to go like actually hold up. Um, I mean, will you go to school? I mean, I think that's an easy one. I think how Barack Obama like carried it. He had like a limited selection. It was pretty an idea from him. But honestly, for like school morning, I don't think it's that hard to decide what to wear or like the morning routine. I don't think it's hard to decide what to do already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Omar. I mean, so when you said food, right? Do you have an example of how you make your decision making with food faster for yourself?
Wait, what happened?
You said something about food, right? How food is something that you try to decide earlier, right? Do you have an example?
I just set like a food list for myself and just decide what I might feel like tomorrow. But
Okay.
I'm not very selective of my food. I just decide which one I want because I like all of them.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you, Omar, for sharing. So, yeah, I mean, that's a good example of also having limited options for food, right? Because that makes it easier overall, makes it faster. So, thank you. Thank you, Omar. Okay. We'll go to the next. Actually, we're gonna play a quick video before we go to the next one. Hope you guys like this one. Let's see.
Have you stacking. If you've ever read Atomic Habits, James Clear, the author, discusses this concept originally explored by B.J. Fogg called habit stacking, which is essentially attaching a new habit that you want to learn to an existing habit that you already have. We can hijack that system to help us build new habits. An example from Clear on how to actually use this formula is saying something like, after I have my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. Once you've started to establish this new behaviour, you can then go even deeper, stacking more behaviours and habits and essentially building the life that you want. Have you ever heard?
Okay. So again, this one is referencing the book that I highly recommend to you guys, Atomic Habits. So there's a concept in the book talking about habit stacking. So, if you want to make your daily life a little easier for smaller decisions, kind of pair things that you're already doing with something else that you want to start doing. So, let's say in the morning you want to start maybe drinking more coffee. I don't know, maybe that's something that you like to do. Maybe having a little routine to make your morning coffee. Combine that with something that you already do, which is, maybe you go work out in the morning, just combine those two things together. That's called habit stacking. If you want to start, studying more at a certain time, combine that with something you're already doing. Maybe you're, you have a free hour during your day already, and that's part of your schedule. Just, put things together. That's kind of what habit stacking is for, and it can help you also make your daily small decisions quicker and easier. Okay, now we're going to go to our last topic for today. In my opinion, the most important topic. So, these are your decision-making frameworks. So the actual things that will make your choices easier overall. So there's multiple ways that you can go about um, these types of decisions that you have to make in your life, big and small. So let's start with the first one, which is the 70% rule. This is by Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon. So his concept is that to make decisions, you have to do them when you have about 70% of the information that you need to make it, rather than having all 100%. Because when you kind of wait for that perfectionist moment of having every information that you need to make a decision, it actually can help you become paralyzed. It kind of freezes you up instead of giving you the clarity that you need. It's better to kind of just rely on the main things that you need to know, about 70% of what you need, instead of just waiting for all of it. So, for example, if we're going to use choosing a college major, right? Let's say that you want to major in biology, right? You don't really know you don't really know fully if you want to do that. But you do have about the right information that you might need. So let's say you talked to your professors, you talked to people that are already bio majors who are maybe 3 years ahead of you. Maybe you already talked to your family and friends about that decision. So that's like the 70% that you have. And then maybe that 30% you don't have is, you know, maybe the type of job that you'll get when you graduate. So that's like one thing that you do need to focus on, but you cannot let yourself be stopped from that one thing or maybe those few things that you don't know. Just focus on what the main things that you need to know, and that will help you just form your overall decision. Um, so that's the 70% rule from Jeff Bezos. Okay, then we're going to move on to the 10-10-10 rule by Susie Welch. So this is my favorite one. I have a video on this one as well that I would love to play. So this is Susie Welch is actually explaining, what the rule is. And, if you don't know her, I would also highly recommend that you guys look into her. She's a professor at New York University, at the Stern School of Business. So, Batu, if you could play this video, that would be great for slide 8.
I wanted to do a little recap of 10-10-10 and what it is. Like 30 seconds, even less. 10-10-10 is a decision-making tool. It starts with you knowing your values. That's not easy. Once you know them, and you take every hard... You take every hard decision that you've got, you think about all the options you have, and you think of the consequences of those options in 10 minutes, okay? That stands for the immediate future. It doesn't have to be 10 minutes, but it's immediate future. 10 months, the foreseeable future. You know, the next 6 months, the next year and a half, and then 10 years. Hey, that's the life you want to create. You got a hard decision? Put it through the 10-10-10 screen. Know your values before you do it, and you've got a system that will deliver for you clear, consistent decisions you can communicate to yourself and to everyone around you. Try it. It really works. I just wanted to do.
Okay. So, does anybody want to maybe comment on something about this video that they feel like they can apply to their life? This is, again, it's 10 minutes, 10 months, and then 10 years of your life. Making short-term, just thinking about your short-term consequence, maybe your midterm, and then your long-term consequence. Does anybody have any thoughts on this one? Maybe how you want to use it for maybe a big decision you want to make soon? Anyone? Nelsie, do you wanna answer this question?
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Nelsie.
What was the question?
So the question is, based on the video that you just saw, the concept is having to make decisions, thinking about how it's going to affect you in 10 minutes, in 10 months, and then in 10 years. So, do you have something in mind that maybe, you're thinking about maybe the short-term effect, the midterm, the long-term effect, and how you want to use that?
Um, I think it ties a lot into like the college journey, because like, um, picking a college, you kind of like that's gonna affect you in 10 years, and then picking like, oh, I want to be in this dorm, that's in 10 months, and then like kind of like saying like, okay, like I want to take these I don't know about the 10 minutes, the one that one's kind of hard to explain, but I feel like it kind of helps more with the college process to know like this is a big decision, but this is how it would affect me. Like maybe like schedules or like how big the college is, and like okay, in 10 minutes I can get from here to here or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, Nelsie. So that's a really good example. I was using the example of a college major, but even choosing a college itself is a huge thing. I can give you guys an example. I went to business school and I wasn't sure of that decision for a long time, right? I knew people who were in business school who chose a certain major because it was easy, right? So that would be like the 10 minutes thing. So they chose that easier major because in 10 minutes or, in a short time, it would be easier for them, right? Like they would get really good grades and things would go really well. They would have a great GPA and like they would have a good fun college life because they chose an easier major. Whereas I chose a harder major. I would say, compared to others in business school. So for me, in those 10 minutes, it was pretty hard, right? Like I wasn't always having fun. I was studying all the time. It wasn't really the best decision in my short term for me. But in my longer term, 10 months, 10 years later, I am, much more stable. I feel like I am happier overall because I have a good stable income. I have, a job that I like. And, whereas other people that I know who maybe took an easier route in the beginning, they're actually struggling a lot more than me now. And I feel like they're always looking for a job or they're confused about what they want to do in the long term and things like that. So I guess that's kind of the point of this framework, right? Is that you have to think about the consequences for yourself, for the short term, for right now. If something feels easy right now, maybe it's actually better for you later on. Whereas the opposite, if it's something is harder for you right now, I'm sorry, I meant to say if something's easier for you right now, it might be harder for you later. Whereas if something is harder for you now, it might be better for you later. So, it's just important to think about that if you're choosing a college, right? Maybe if you're choosing a college that's nearby you and you don't want to, maybe dorm, that could be better for you right now, but maybe it won't be better for you later. It's important to just really think about the long-term effects of what you really want to do in your life. So I know that's a very deep thing to think about. I guess another serious thing that relates to that is your values and knowing your values in your life and what really, really matters to you. And that takes a lot of internal work, a lot of introspection to understand who you are, so and what you really want in your life. So, I would really recommend that when you're, trying to choose a college, is really look into this 10-10-10 rule, this framework. And also, that professor, by the way, Susie Welch, she's an amazing resource for everything, careers and majors and colleges. She teaches at the business school at NYU. So, she talks a lot about these types of topics. So, she has a whole YouTube channel, she has a podcast. So I would really recommend you guys look into her for more information about that. Okay. And so there's a few other, frameworks here that we have that we can talk about. So the other one is the two ways door framework. So, there are some decisions in your life that are a little easier, right? They're not, they can be undone, they can be reversed. Uh, you know, Something quick like, trying a new sport or, moving to a certain area in your neighborhood. Those can be fixed kind of easily, whereas there's other things that are kind of one-way decisions that are, a lot harder to reverse, right? Like maybe going to a certain college, it's going to be harder for you to transfer, right? It's going to take a lot more time. So, basically the point here is to try to go slow with those bigger decisions that can't really be changed, whereas trying to go faster with those quicker decisions and things that can be changed. Okay. And then another framework that we have here is pros, cons, and consequences. So I'm sure that you've seen when you're trying to make a decision, people say to have a pros cons list, which is also, which is great. But, we would also recommend that you have a consequences section. So try to understand what the long-term effects will be of whatever you try to do, right? If you're trying to choose a college, really try to think about what college you go to will really try to benefit you in 5 or 10 years, right? I would really recommend you guys talk to people who are alumni of that school that you're trying to go to. That would be a great way to assess your consequence, right? Like think about where that person is now that they've graduated from that school, what type of job are they doing? Where do they live? How much money do they make? Like these things are really gonna affect you later on, so you have to know the consequence and really look into that. Okay, and the last one is your values-based decisions. So, we could talk about this, have a whole another lesson about just your values in your life. But you can have like a basic lesson on this if you go online and you look up the top values that you can have, in college and work, in your personal life. So it's really important to know right now, at least, what your top three values are in your life. So for college, right? If your top three, let's just say the most important thing for your college journey is that you want to be living far from home. Maybe that's something that's really important to you, that you want to be in a whole new place. That's a value, right? That's something really serious to you, and you have to put that in your rank when choosing a college, right? Another value you could have is maybe having to dorm, like you really, really want to dorm. That's another thing, right? Another value you could have is having an amazing academic program. Like you really want to make sure you're going to a school that has great outlook for jobs. Okay. There's just a bunch of things, right, that you could weigh out. You just have to know what is the most important to you. And it's really important to assess that for yourself and to ask yourself what you really want in your college and in your life. Okay, so those are the 5 frameworks that, I really wanted to touch on today. And I really hope that that helps you, with whatever decisions that you're trying to make. Okay, so we're gonna go to the next slide now, and we're gonna go over this through a workbook question. If we have time for a breakout room, Basha, we can do that for, 5 to 10 minutes.
All right. I'm going to give them 1 minute to think of their answers, and then I will send them to a breakout room for 4 minutes. Is that okay?
Yes, that's
All
awesome.
right. Okay.
So the question is, which framework resonates most with how your brain naturally works and why?
All right. I will be sending you to the breakout rooms now. Thank you.
Bless you.
Thank you. Do you guys
I
have
like
any?
the way that you're integrating the videos into sort of the discussion. I think that's like really well done.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. I really like Susie Welch, so that helps. I've been watching her for a long time.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I'm glad
Happy
that you know about her.
in the curriculum, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you can speak pretty authoritatively on sort of the content that she has and what she's trying to say. So that was really like well done.
Thank you. Yeah, I love her. I want to take her class. I have a lot to say. I could talk about her for a while.
Yeah. Did you go to NYU for business school?
No, but I wanted to. So that's why I also know about her a lot. I know people who went to her class, and yeah, like this is my network, so yeah.
Yeah, nice. Um, cool. Well, I think you're doing a pretty good job. Any questions before you wrap up?
Um, I guess I mean, I'm trying to call on people as much as I can. I guess, do you recommend me changing the topic a little bit, like focusing on college and majors, if that helps them?
Yeah, I think anything to help that resonates with sort of where they are in life, whether it be deciding where to go to college or what classes to take next semester. They're like juniors, or some of them may not even be to going to college, and they can decide like what are the options there too. But I think what you're saying does resonate. Um, I think they're just a little bit like what I usually do is I do a work like a breakout room at the beginning to make them feel like talkative
Mm.
and things like that. And so I think they might just be like a little shy. But I think they'll be a little bit more talkative in the next when you bring them back. If you decide to like ask, how was it? They might be a little bit more chatty. Um, so you might want to give that a go.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I feel like in general, usually they are shy, so I don't really mind calling them out now.
Yeah.
But yeah. And I have 10 minutes left, right? Or
Yeah,
5.
you have 10 minutes left to wrap up. But we usually take the last 3 minutes, like the last 3 minutes, the first 90 of the last 3 minutes are just to finish up the workbook, and then we go through announcements. And so if you really have like probably 7 minutes at most. And if it's less than that, that's fine too. I can go and give the announcements at the end if you want to just pass it back to me after the slide that says 90 seconds to finish up any questions.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I kind of want to just talk about this other book too that I recommend, but yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. And then I come back any second now. So I'll leave you to it.
Hey everyone. Glad to see everyone coming back. Okay. So, how was that? I would love to hear which framework resonates with you the most and why. Which one you guys chose in your rooms. Anyone, feel free to unmute yourself. Okay. I'm
Hello?
gonna. Okay, go ahead, Leslie.
So something I said personally was that I picked the pros, cons, and consequences because I'm a very big overthinker when it comes to things. So like it kind of helps me already sort through my jumbled thoughts already. And
Mm.
it also helps me to think like, okay, what is gonna be a consequence of this? Like, is this a good idea, or is that gonna give me the outcome that I want? So
Mm, that's a great answer, Nelsie. Yeah, that's actually an amazing way to handle overthinking, is just kind of brain dumping it out, especially thinking about the long-term effect. Would you say that, you're using it for college, like you were saying before? Yeah, okay. That's a good option. I would really recommend that. The only thing that I would add for you for that one is to also think about what's the most important to you, when it comes to making those decisions, when you're putting your pro con consequences list out, trying to, if you have all that information, just thinking about what's the top priority for you. Okay. Anyone else want to answer this one? Mario, do you want to go ahead? It's okay if you don't.
I think the 70% rule is resonates with me because it's able to help me understand the stuff that I need to learn more.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Mario. Yeah, I'm glad that one helped you. You should look into it a little bit more. Maybe you can watch videos from Jeff Bezos, and hopefully that can help you, with your decisions too. Okay. One more person before we move on. Anyone want to talk about another one? Maybe not the two that we said already that helped them.
For me, I put the two ways door framework. For me, I
Mm.
find it easier because I think it gives you only two options. And one of the option being it's like once you step in and make a decision, you can't change it. And like even though you made the wrong decision, you can always try to like make it better regardless of your decision. And then the
Mm-hmm.
second doorway was making a decision, but you could easily walk back out. I feel like those are like for like the choices that don't really matter or they're not big decisions. But let's say you do make a choice you did not like. For me, I try not to think about the other alternatives because I'll never know what happened, and just try to make it the
Mm-hmm.
best I can.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Omar. That was a really good, summary of the two-door framework. I'm glad it helped you. Okay, now we'll just go on to the last, slide for today. So we're just going to talk, a little bit about the next class. So we're going to learn about hope, optimism, and gratitude. So, learn how hope, optimism, and gratitude strengthen your resilience, your motivation, and having a positive outlook, and believing that you have a better future coming for you, and appreciating things and being more grateful will help you go through challenges in your life, and learn how to use your setbacks as opportunities to grow rather than giving up. Okay, so before we close out the topic for today, I just, also wanted to talk about this book. So I have this book literally in my hand. It's one of my favorite books. Okay, guys, it's called The Midnight Library. I hope, or I don't know if anybody's heard of it. It's by Matt Haig. So it's actually a fiction book. So you wouldn't expect it to teach you about like decision making in life and things like that, but it really does. So basically, the book is about this woman who she has like a library full of books, and every single book is a different path she could have taken in her life. So she is like 35 and she has a lot of regret. She's depressed and she has like a lot of mental health issues and she just doesn't know what she wants to do with her life. She's like absolutely lost. And she picks up a different book throughout this whole book, she picks up a book in the library to see where her life would have went if she went to a different school, if she married someone else, if she lived in a different city, like all these different life decisions. And it's just like a really cool, interesting way to look at like how your decisions make your like shape your whole life. So it's fiction, so I feel like it's even more fun to read than like Atomic Habits or something. But I would really recommend like if you want to have like a cute, pre-college, like help you just make your life decisions and like choose your major, choose your school, like it'll just give you a good perspective on like regret and things like that. So yeah, I hope you read it. I hope you like it. It's called The Midnight Library, but yeah. So that was it for today, guys. We're gonna move on, just finish up your workbook questions. You have 90 seconds to do that. Guys, thanks so much for today. I'm just gonna pass it off to Joseph for the announcements.
All right. Thank you, Arsela, for an amazing class. If you all appreciated what Arsela had to share today, give her some emoji love and some reactions. Appreciate her for the effort that she put in to teach you all about decision making this evening. Thank you, Arsela. Some announcements for y'all before we go. There's an Ignite speaker series coming up in a couple of weeks on March 2nd. The RSVP deadline is this uh, February 27th, so in 10 days. It's going to be a great speaker to share more about his wisdom or their wisdom with you during that time and sign up, get some points as well. We also have a field trip coming up on March 15th to talk about the World Cup that's coming to LA soon, like I think maybe later on this year. And so if you're curious on how a sports program like that comes together, this is going to be a great opportunity to find out more about the inside scoop on what that could be about. It's going to take a lot of coordination, a lot of decision making, where we're going to bring some of the leaders shaping this event in. So if you're excited about that, please sign up by March 6th to make sure that we have enough food for you. We can coordinate rides and everything. Don't miss out on this exciting opportunity to learn more about something that happens rarely to LA, the World Cup. One last thing to share with y'all is we have a scholarship for 12th graders who are graduating this year from the Rotary Club of LA. And so if you're curious, there should be some information shared with you in the chat or later on in emails to be able to get you more information on how to potentially apply and then win the scholarship as well. And the deadline for that is March 2nd. So with that said, that's all that we have for you today. We'll see you next time. And on your way out, drop an emoji or two. And we'll see you next week, y'all. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. See you next week.
See ya. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Arsela.